All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about some insight that was shared by a boxing insider today about the Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford fight, which echoes what Bob Arum was saying and echoes what Tim Smith of the PBC had said, and gives a date that they believe the fight could take place. And it ain't good news. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about the Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford fight and some, I wouldn't call it bad news because it's just an expert speculation, but it sounds very, very similar to two other experts' speculation about the fight. And in this particular case, they gave a date where they think the fight could happen, and it ain't the best in the world. Now, before I get into that though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a new subscriber to the channel, if you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we release more videos, in which we do every day in the live stream format and in this type of video, I guess you could call it podcast type of format. Always really good boxing conversations, whether you agree with me, you don't agree with me, just a really good place, forum to get together and chop it up about this boxing. If you're a longtime subscriber and supporter to the channel, you know the routine. Thank you so much for your support because you guys are what keeps the channel going. Cannot tell you how much I appreciate what you guys do for the channel in the live streams and in the videos that we do daily. All right, so let's get into this. Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, big fight in the 147-pound division. Pretty much what everybody is right now is focused on in boxing because there's not a lot of other big fights. We have the Canelo Alvarez-Gennady Golovkin fight coming up in about a month and 10 days. You also, I think we're 2 weeks away from the Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua fight. We've got some fights out there with like Michaela Meyer and Alyssa Baumgardner, with the headlining fight being some Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall. So got some good cards, but nothing that is really out there captivating the minds of the majority of the boxing fans quite the way that the Errol Spence Jr. fight would do if it could be made. Now, just recently on an interview that was giving, a prominent boxing trainer gave his insight on what he thought was going to happen in the fight. And let me tell you, it echoed 100% with what Bob Arum said and what Tim Smith from the PBC said a while ago. And that was that, look, that fight probably is not going to be happening anytime soon because both fighters are going to want $10, $20 million for that fight. And the network is not going to pay that money. The pay-per-views for the fight, are not guaranteed to be high enough to get that to them in a guaranteed format. So you're going to need outside investors in order to try to do that. And man, let me tell you, that's exactly what Bob Arum said about the situation. He said, look, the way pay-per-view is going right now with guys, you're selling like 800, like the biggest pay-per-view in the last several years has been an 800,000 view pay-per-view from Canelo Alvarez. You had the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 2 that did somewhere between 750 and 800,000 pay-per-views. But everything else is like around the 500, 400,000 pay-per-view buy type of situation. So in order to get that really big, like Mayweather type of payday that in this guy's mouth says, that both fighters would want, it's going to have to do, it would have to be, people would have to know that it was going to do significantly better than that. The problem with that is obviously that Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford both have the same fan base because they're from the same demographic. More than that, Terence Crawford has never really been a particularly big attraction as far as his viewership has gone, or whether his pay-per-views and ticket sales have gone. So I believe that, look, this fight probably cannot take place until like November of 2023, when one or two things happens. Either the fight builds, even bigger than it is now, with conversations continuing about it. Terence Crawford gets a chance to maybe fight somebody else on pay-per-view, and they get to really do an intense lead into the fight. Something like that would need to take place in order to get it, or they would have to send that fight over to Dubai and have, like one of these, like a Saudi royal family or whoever's in Dubai, forgive me for not being accurate, or certain benefactors from out in the Middle East would have to put up a lot of money to get the fight to take place. Now, it's not helped by the fact that Terence Crawford may very well be handicapping the fight by not going to Dallas, Texas, where they could get 60,000 in the stadium. But look, man, if what they're saying is true, and it's looking like, if that's the case, right, then I think a lot of these fighters are going to have to get used to the fact that they're not going to get a ton of money for what many people consider to be the big fights. Because other than, matter of fact, I don't know really anybody that right now looks like they are going to be able to get to the place where they can do 800,000, 900,000 pay-per-views, bust up 1.2 million, 1.3 million pay-per-views like Oscar De La Hoya did and Floyd Mayweather Jr. did. Canelo might have done on an occasion or two. And I don't think that has a lot to do. It's not completely related to piracy of the pay-per-views. What I think it has a lot to do with is the separation of, the hesitancy of fighters, specifically Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Canelo Alvarez, to fight some of these young guys and give them the opportunity to really grow that fan base and have a lot of real casual fans get an opportunity to see them fight. Because when are casual fans going to be able to see somebody like say, just take Errol Spence Jr. Won't even go with Terence. When will they be able to see Errol fight, right? If Errol isn't able to get a fight with Canelo, like Canelo got with Floyd Mayweather Jr., right? Where Floyd Mayweather Jr. introduced a lot of casual fans to Canelo Alvarez. Also, I think a lot of the reason that Gervonta Davis was able to do well like that is he's doing is because he was on the undercard for Floyd Mayweather Jr. and a lot of people got to see him on that Floyd Mayweather Jr. Conor McGregor card. Same way that Floyd Mayweather Jr. got big by fighting Oscar De La Hoya, right? Same way that Oscar De La Hoya got big by fighting a lot of guys like Julio Cesar Chavez and Pernell Whitaker on that HBO platform. I think that these guys, I think that we may be in a situation where, as far as like the top guys in boxing, that they're going to have to hit rock bottom. And, and I'm telling you, if they can't make big dollar fights, it's only a certain amount of time until those budgets and all of that stuff get driven down on the networks as well. And those guys are just making a lot less money overall. And the whole boxing market can be depressed. You know what I mean? But we'll see what happens. To me, unfortunately, that conversation sounds like, it could be right unless we get some real sacrifice out of Terence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr. I think it's Terence Crawford, but don't shoot the messenger on that one, where they just say, look, we're going to make this fight because we got to get this big fight. But when you got a guy like Terence, who's already in the latter part of his career, who's already used to making really big paydays, he may not be willing to take that step where it seems like Errol Spence Jr. very much is. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comments section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.